Hi, this is Lee Balkum, and we are here to talk about how to stop an affair and how to save your marriage. Again, my name is Lee Balkum, and I'm the Internet's leading marriage expert. First, you need to ask the question, is an affair threatening your marriage? The latest research shows that 25% of marriages suffer infidelity, and that 25% is really talking about a physical affair, somebody who's actually in a sexual relationship with somebody else. The rate of emotional affairs is much higher. Let's get to the definition of an affair. When we talk about affairs, it gets to be a little muddy because people like to deny what's going on, and unfortunately some of the presidential behavior from several years back has muddied the waters on what exactly we're talking about. So I'm going to define it for you here. A physical affair is a sexual activity with someone who is in a committed monogamous relationship with somebody who is outside of that relationship. In other words, it's breaking the vows of a committed monogamous relationship by having a sexual contact with someone outside the marriage or the monogamous relationship. An emotional affair I would define as an emotional sharing that is inappropriate between two people because of a monogamous relationship. Because what it does is it takes energy away from the other relationship. That's why this is a problem. It takes energy away from the appropriate relationship and toward an inappropriate relationship. It drains the energy away from where it should be. And it threatens the sense of safety and security that should be part of a monogamous relationship. In other words, it takes us out of our safety zone. The secrecy of that relationship begins to eat away at the trust that's necessary for a monogamous relationship to even thrive and sometimes even survive. Unfortunately, we're surrounded by it. There's songs, stories, movies, even the news seems to make infidelity a normal part of life. Culture almost gives a stamp of approval to cheating. I've heard songs that are just glorifying the fact that there is an illicit relationship going on. It turns my stomach. And people who have been through this tell me that no matter where they turn, they're constantly seeing it on TV and movies. Wherever they are, they're constantly surrounded and bombarded by an affair, and unfortunately a romanticized idea of an affair. Now, affairs, they're often referred to as a crime of opportunity. In other words, two people at the wrong place at the wrong time, in their opinion perhaps at the right place at the right time, but two people who are hurting at the same time or vulnerable at the same time, who are able to come together in a way that ends up being unfaithful. Now, it doesn't just happen, but it does need the opportunity. In other words, it's not just two people who find each other on the street. Usually it's about close friends, close associates, people we work with, people we associate with in some way that this happens to. Now, there's the top reason that's given to justify this behavior, and it's sex. I want to be clear about this. It's not just sex, though. I mean, sex could be met in lots of different ways other than an actual affair. It's about feeling wanted and desired. Unfortunately, that tends to be a major complaint about what happens in marriage. The feelings of being wanted, being desired, of having that passion, they go missing in a long-term relationship oftentimes. So let's talk very quickly about how to stop an affair. First of all, recognize that you cannot control another person's behavior, so don't try. You cannot make them stop having an affair. That said, you can request that your spouse stop the affair and honor their commitment. In other words, ask them to step up to the plate. They promise to be faithful in a marriage, and that's what you're asking of them. Decide to face the truth about your marriage. This is number 3. Step number 3 is decide to face the truth about your marriage. What went wrong? You see, what I was just saying was that affairs are symptoms of underlying problems in a marriage. I'm not saying that it was okay to act out, but I am saying that what led to that is something that was not happening in the relationship. And so you have to step back and ask your question, why were we there? Why were we at a vulnerable place? It's not just a one-time fight that leads to this, but it's a long-term process where suddenly a couple finds themselves disconnected and somebody decides to reconnect somewhere else. So commit to stay together. This is number 4. Commit to stay together, re-energize the relationship, and move forward. This is not about going back to where it was before that, but it's actually committing to staying there so you can make it what both of you would want it to be. Number 5, accept whatever responsibility you have in where the relationship is. Again, let me be clear about this. Do not accept responsibility for how your spouse acted. for your spouse acting out in the marriage, but do accept responsibility that you have in where the relationship is and how you've been disconnected and how you both have not been giving each other what you need to. And seek forgiveness for that. Ask, here I am, I've been disconnected with you, and I am so sorry about that. I'm so sorry that we were at that place, that you were vulnerable. And then seek to forgive. A lot of people misunderstand what I mean by forgive, and when I say to forgive, I mean to let go. That is not about giving the other person permission. We're going to get to that. Now, avoid becoming the angry, resentful spouse, because when we become that, when we let our anger and our resentment build up within us, we actually drive our spouse to continue to justify their behavior, so they'd have no reason to step away from it. And finally, refuse to let the affair define you. Don't let it define the relationship, and don't let it define you as someone who's been cheated on. Stay true with who you are. You're a human being who desires to be loved, deserves to be loved, and wants to love. Stay with that. Stay true to that fact. Recovering from an affair takes some steps too. It requires understanding why it happened. We just talked about that. It requires understanding what was going on in the relationship and why that is so important. And it requires forgiveness. It requires saying, that's behind us, let's move forward. It requires saying, I'm not going to let that hold us back. It requires correcting the shortcomings of the relationship, finding out what was happening and decide how to fix those things, and it requires commitment, because sometimes in the midst of an affair, the only thing that keeps a couple together is they have made a commitment. That is what you stay with. You stay with that commitment until you are at the point where you want to stay together. And it requires creating boundaries to protect the relationship. What needs to happen to make sure that this never happens again? What needs to happen to keep that person away, to keep the marriage safe? A boundary is what you won't let happen to something, and in this case, what you won't let happen to the relationship. How do you maintain a safe barrier so that your relationship cannot be caught in an affair again? What do you need to do to make sure that whatever was causing that, whatever the opportunity was, is not allowed to continue? If you want to learn more about saving your marriage and how to recover from an affair, I want you to go now to www.savethemarriage.com. Go now to www.savethemarriage.com. Let's get busy saving your marriage.